This is News Fighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to.
G'day Australia, welcome to News Fighters for today, Wednesday, April 24th, 2019. I'm your host, Dylan Bierhanner. First up, let's go to the big fight everyone is talking about.
Well, police in Florida have been forced to break up a savage brawl between two men and the Easter Bunny.
JK, lol, no, of course, I'm talking about the Australian federal election. And One Nation leader Pauline Hanson was out on the campaign trail in Queensland yesterday. And on the Today Show, she was as incoherent as ever.
There was once a flood throughout Australia here, water. It was all through central Australia. We've got volcano eruptions. What happened to the dinosaurs? How did they die off? Humans didn't create it. He actually folded his part. The people walked away from him. Clive Palmer's in for Clive Palmer, not for the Australian people. And I hope people see through that as well and look at what I have been able to achieve for Queensland in the last 3 years.
And if you didn't know, her campaign slogan this election is, I've got the guts to say what you're thinking. Because what everyone's thinking is...
We've got volcano eruptions.
Today's Deborah Knight summed it up best.
I'm not sure what the scientists would say to that.
Now, of course, onto the main story in today's episode, Barnaby Joyce and the water buyback controversy. Very complex story. Here's a quick montage to bring you up to speed.
Barnaby Joyce is embroiled in a controversial $80 million water buyback that he oversaw in 2017 from a Cayman Islands-based company co-founded by the now Energy Minister.
The 2017 deal in question was part of a series of controversial agreements under the Murray-Darling Basin Plan that occurred without an open tender process.
Okay, everyone all caught up. The project broke this story last week and it's been quite big on Twitter ever since.
Look, it's trending number one. It was last time I checked as Watergate on Twitter. That's what it's been dubbed as.
Okay, millennials, time to stop dabbing on your avocado toast and listen up. In case you missed it, the gate suffix for controversies originated from one already called Watergate that happened to US President Richard Nixon in the 1970s that was named after the Watergate hotel break-in. Okay, got it? I know you love to reboot Spider-Man every 2 years, and there's already another movie called Hellboy, but reusing scandal names is just going to get too damn confusing. Why didn't you call this Water Buyback Gate or something much simpler? Anyways, as we were saying, Barnaby was the water minister responsible, and he was interviewed by ABC's Patricia Karvelas on RN Drive on Monday night in an interview that was a bit...
really fiery interview.
An explosive interview.
During a fiery interview,
He conducted a spirited defence of his actions.
Yes, Barnaby did sound a little bit spirited.
Hey, how you going, Patricia? Where would that information come to you? I did not make a mistake. Is Ms. Wong? Oh, no. No, be straight, mate. We got water to water these environmental assets. If you try to buy water now, Patricia, it is through the roof because there's a drought. It is through the roof. It'd be even dearer now, I presume. The best person you interview is Mr. Taylor, not me, because I'm Mr. Joyce.
I know who you are.
The 30-minute interview was so rambling, I kept expecting Barnaby to break into random power ballads like Drunk Uncle on Saturday Night Live.
What assurances do you have that the work...
I even got more concerned when Barnaby mentioned he was in a boat.
Whatever boat I'm in is the boat Penny Wong's in, is the boat that Minister Lionhelm is in, it's the boat the Australian Labor Party's in.
Okay, first of all, Barnaby, hand over the keys. I don't think you should be driving this boat right now. And second of all, if it's a boat that can hold the entire Labor Party, well, that sounds like an ark. And if there's a flood coming, well, I want to know where the water came from and how much you paid for it. Back to the interview. And Barnaby was even more shouty than usual, forcing Patricia Karvelas to try and calm him down multiple times.
Who were the shareholders? Barnaby Joyce, let's just calm down and ask this question. So do you think then, given there are so... Barnaby Joyce, I'm trying to be patient and trying not to have a shouty interview. I just want to ask you about your deal. Barnaby Joyce, I'm trying to be very patient. If you're just tuning in, this is RN Drive and we are broadcasting across the Asia Pacific. Barnaby Joyce is our guest.
Yes, and the big question Patricia wanted to know was if Barnaby knew about where the money was going. And wouldn't you know it, Barnaby dodged it more times than a rodeo clown.
Did you try and find out where the money would go? Did you try and find out where the money would go? Did you try to find out where the money would go?
Let me finish the answer completely.
Did you try and find out where the money would go?
Well, I thought that the Labor Party bought water off the same people.
Do you regret that you didn't find out where the money was going to go, who was going to benefit here?
Patricia, that is not the question that's asked of me.
Yes, not asked of you at all, exactly. Anyways, eventually Patricia wore him down and we finally got this kernel of truth.
Who are they? Tell me who they are.
Oh, God, I've heard it's a trust account in the Cayman Islands. There you go.
Okay, so we got that, but Barnaby stood firm on saying that he did not know if Angus Taylor was involved, something he declared in a very Barnaby-style way.
I never knew Angus Taylor. I wouldn't have known him if he stood up my cornflakes.
Yes, teens, forget about standing outside her window with her boombox. I hear standing up in someone's cornflakes is the hottest new teen dating trend. Anyways, this whole interview for Barnaby was about playing the blame game. You may have heard Barnaby earlier blaming Labor, saying they did it first. Which is true, except there was one notable difference.
But Labor says that was conducted through a competitive tender process.
Anyways, regardless of the facts, because hey, it's an election campaign, here's Scott Morrison shifting the blame to Labor in a very calm and collected manner.
Well, this arrangement was done with the same company the Labor Party entered into a transaction with when they were in government on the same issue.
And here's Barnaby Joyce shifting the blame to Labor while also blowing out some speakers and giving everyone at home a splitting headache.
The Labor Party minister from Queensland recommended this. The Queensland Labor government, Labor government, Queensland Labor government, Labor government recommends this to us. The federal Labor government, Labor, the Labor Party, Labor Party.
Maybe I misheard and Barnaby wasn't blaming Labor. Maybe he was just auditioning for 90s techno band Underworld.
Labor.
Also to blame in Barnaby's blame game was more competent people.
Now, very competent people, vastly more competent than me, have found the vendor, vastly more competent than me to determine a fair price. These people are vastly more competent than me.
Geez, more competent than you, Barnaby? Well, I find that hard to believe that anyone like that actually exists. Anyways, next up in Barnaby's blame game was morons.
But, Patricia, why did the Queensland government recommend this to us? Are they morons?
For his next excuse, Barnaby played the pity card. You see, he doesn't care about any of this anymore because now he's just a humble backbencher.
Well, I am now the member for New England, a humble backbencher. Patricia, my views on whether it should be released or anything are as good as yours. I'm a backbencher. Humble old backbencher, winning the seat of New England, knocking up core flutes.
You as a humble backbencher, as you keep describing yourself.
As a humble backbencher, I don't care.
And for his next tactic, Barnaby just dismissed Patricia's claims and questions with funny voices.
If the minister comes in and says, well, I don't know, I've just been sitting behind my desk. Barnaby, why'd you override your
But
department?
it is the job.
Well, excuse me, Mr. Smith, is the Australian Future Fund going to benefit from this?
And when none of that worked, Barnaby got out his schoolyard insult dictionary and called all the allegations poo and crap.
This is an absolute load of horse poo because we did nothing but our job. This is such a load of horse crap.
And as she said on ABC News the next day, the whole interview left Patricia shocked and offended by Barnaby's language.
Barnaby Joyce said he didn't, and I'm sorry for this language, but he used it, he didn't give a toss.
Yes, sorry you had to hear the T word there. I have no idea how that slipped past the ABC censors. Apologies if any of our listeners were offended. Yes, and when the interview wrapped up after a whole half an hour on air, unfortunately for Patricia, it didn't sound like she's heard the end of old Barnaby.
And everyone knows you have my mobile number. It's certainly been trending for a few days. Thank you so much for joining us.
So Australia, I think we should all band together today and crowdfund Patricia Karvelas a new mobile phone number so she's never subjected to this kind of ranting ever again. While this whole quote-unquote Watergate scandal might not be going away, we can only hope that this Watergate will affect Barnaby Joyce the same way that the last Watergate impacted Richard Nixon.
My political life is over.
Well, if water buybacks does ever go to a royal commission and Barnaby is forced to testify, I can have one guess what his defence strategy will be.
Well, when the
Mr. Joyce
does it, that means that it is not illegal.
I know who you are.
That's Newsfighters for today, April 24th, 2019. Thanks for listening. We're going to be having more Newsfighters throughout the election campaign, including coverage of the First Leaders debate next week. In the meantime, subscribe on your favourite podcasting app. Follow us on Twitter @NewsFightersPod. I'm Dylan Baden. Keep fighting and bye for now.
This is Newsfighters, where we fight the news so you don't have to.